Right, here we go. We're going into the NFC North. NFC North. This is a tough one. Bears ran away with it last year. This was a disappointment. This was not supposed to go this way for the Minnesota Vikings. Green Bay Packers, well, they looked as poor as they ever did. And then the Lions are the Lions, and they will be in last place again this time. So let's see how close or not this really is in that division. All right, so NFC North. Let's take a look at these. That's schedules. So let's take a look at the NFC North, how this is going to shake down, what these teams added, what they did not, what they lost. Let's start with Green Bay. Green Bay, much of the same here. They're rolling with it. Aaron Rodgers is the same. They've got Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams Jones seems to be the favorite there. Devontae Adams, we know he's the number one, hands down. And then you got the two young receivers with Valdez-Scantling and Geronimo Allison. A lot of people think Scantling's going to have a decent year, probably better than Allison. Sticking with Jimmy Graham again. So it's really the same. It's the same Green Bay team, but with a new head coach calling the shots, and there's already some problems there. Let's go up to Chicago, who most people think will probably repeat as the first place team. This is up for grabs. These teams will beat each other up. So Trubisky's back again. Here's where some things change. Howard's gone. Bring in David Montgomery. Draft him. And he's already up to number one on the depth chart. Tariq Cohen. They also the little speedster that they've had. And I don't know how much deeper they're going to get than these two, but those two should get the lion's share. And then they picked up Cordell Patterson. Allen Robinson is the stud here. Taylor Gabriel, I don't think he's all that great, but, he's serviceable. Anthony Miller. And then Trey Burton, one of the better tight ends in the league. So Chicago, they'll still be there with that offense to do what they did last year. And then let's go to Detroit. And, here you go. Matt Stafford's still there. Kerryon Johnson, had a decent year. Nobody knows. C.J. Anderson now there, getting bounced around from place to place and going still. They got Marvin Jones again. Kenny Golladay from last year had a good year. Danny Amendola, I believe this is his first year there in the slot. And T.J. Hawkinson will probably overtake Jesse James at some point there. They do have Jermaine Kearse from Seattle. I see he's hurt. So, on paper, they're not terrible. They just are terrible. They can't win games. It's really hard to figure out why the Lions have such a problem. And then Minnesota, which some people think now quietly that they should be able to overtake that first place again and get it back. And they very well might. Kirk Cousins, a fully healthy Dalvin Cook. They like this Madison. Amir Abdullah, fourth string from the Lions. He's bounced around now. And same guys. You got Diggs and Thielen as the main receivers. They got Chad Beebe. And then they've got two tight ends that are very serviceable. Kyle Rudolph, is the stud. And I think this is Irv Smith Jr., if I'm not mistaken, who they drafted. So they can run two tight end sets all day. Minnesota can be dangerous if they can just get it together. So I'm going to start with them because I think they could be the team, in my opinion, that might lead the North. Let's see their schedule. All right. Everybody had them beating Atlanta. Not a surprise. I also had that. That's a win. At Green Bay. Now, we'll call the Green Bay situation a Splitsville. So at Green Bay, we'll give that a loss. And I'm going to say the same thing with Chicago. Oakland, that's going to be a win. At Chicago will be a loss. At the Giants is a win. Philly at home, I'm going to make that a 50-50. It's possible they lose it. I'll have them beating Detroit in both games, so that's a win. I will have them beating Washington at home. I may have made that 50-50 if it was in Washington. At Kansas City, we'll call that a loss. Even at Dallas, we'll call that a loss. Look at that 3 in a row, huh? Look at this 4 after the bye. How about Kansas City, Dallas, Denver, all 3 in a row? I'm going to say the Denver home game they win. At Seattle, that could be a loss. Detroit, we're going to give that a win. I made Seattle a loss there. Detroit, we give that a win. The Chargers, we're going to give that a loss. This is a tough schedule for sure. The Green Bay home and Chicago, we give them because those are home games. So I only had 1 undecided game for this team. And I did have them at 9-6. I'm going to give them the undecided game. So we got the Vikings at 10-6. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Who's going to challenge them? Well, we know the Packers are, and we know that the Bears are. Now, I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm going to be very honest with you here. This particular game, I did take the Bears in winning that game, and I think a lot of people did. So, if I'm being honest about Green Bay's schedule, I had this as a loss, which they already surprised because it was at Chicago. So I'm going to just be accurate in how I would have predicted it. And I'm going to do the same thing with Green Bay with the splits with the homes with these teams. So the Minnesota game at home, they'll win. I'll have them beating Denver at home. I'm going to have this Philly game as a toss-up. At Dallas is a loss I'm going to make. The Detroit game's a win. Oakland's a win. At Kansas City's a loss. At the Chargers is a loss, I'm going to say. Probably could be a 50-50, but it's a road game. Carolina at home, that's a 50-50. I'll have them beating San Francisco, beating the Giants, home game beating Washington, the home game against Chicago. I'm going to say that because they already won the road one, I'm going to give that game to Chicago as a split. So I'm going to call that a loss. At Minnesota is a loss, and at Detroit's a win. So before the split skis, we've got an 8-6 team. So if we split those, the Pack will go 9-7 according to the schedule. 9-7. All right. And then let's go Chicago Bears. Let's go with the top 3. And then we'll work. Excuse me. What? Hiccups. Then we'll worry about Detroit. Ain't nothing to worry about with Detroit. Trust me. Ain't nothing to worry about. Okay? So here we go. Whoops. Okay. So I was going to be honest. I would have marked this as a win. So I'm just going to mark it as I would before marking this. So that I would have been wrong, but I would have marked that as a win. At Denver, I'm going to give that a 50-50 because it's at Denver and I think it's tough. I think at Washington, I still think they'll win that. Minnesota home, I'm going to give them the splits on those. So Minnesota, we know, we're going to wrap it up. Minnesota, we have Minnesota. That is a home game. I'm going to give them the win. We'll split that. At Oakland, I'm going to have them winning that. They, if they didn't lose that game, they should win, most of these. Losing Green Bay was a bad start. New Orleans, I'm going to call that a loss even at home. The Chargers, even at home, I'm going to call that a 50-50. At Philly, I'm going to call that a loss because it's at Philly. I'll give them the Detroit. At Rams, that's a loss. Giants, that's a win. At Detroit, I'm going to give them that as a win. The Dallas game at home, I'm still going to give that as a loss. At Green Bay, So because I did it in the last one, I'm going to give them the win there. because I think they'll split with Green Bay. I could be wrong. Kansas City, even at home, I'm going to still call that a loss. That'll be a fun game. And then at Minnesota, this is a tough. These three teams have tough schedules. At Minnesota, if we were doing that as a split, that has to be a loss. So I have the Bears going before the split skis 8-6. Also, listen, Bears 9-7. Also, Bears 9-7. Vikings are supposed to now. The Vikings schedule-wise should win this division. That surprises me a little bit because I wasn't really leaning that way. And here we go. Detroit Lions, the final of that division. Okay. So for Detroit, so that's a tie. I don't think anyone would have thought that was a tie. They were favored. Most people would have had them winning that game. I would have had them winning that game. So that's, nobody's predicting ties, as you can, so that's not even an option. All right. So that's we would have marked them as a win there. Oh my God. Look at the next three games for this team before the bye. This team I can't even believe this. All right. Chargers, loss. Philly, loss. KC, loss. At Green Bay, loss. Minnesota, loss. Giant game at home. I'll give them the win there. I'm going to give them Oakland. At Chicago, loss. Not a lot of 50-50s here, right? Dallas, loss. At Washington, I'm going to put that in 50-50 to be nice. Probably should lose a road game. Chicago, loss. At Minnesota, loss. You see how this is starting to add up? Tampa Bay, I'm going to give them the win there. That's a home game. At Denver, loss. And then to wrap it up with Green Bay, loss. 4-11 before the split ski. I'm going to give them the split ski to be nice. So just so you know, we're writing this out so you could see the visual, so it's proof. And we have the records here. 10 and 6. All right. Okay. So I have the Vikings 10-6. I'll show you there. NFC North predictions. It's funny. So watch this. I'm going to show it to you again. Let's see how close this was. To the year before. Vikings 10-6. Let's take a look. They are going to make a jump. 10-6. They were 8-7-1, and they shouldn't have been. Green Bay 9-7. They're going to make a jump. They were 6-9-1. Chicago 12-4. I don't think that's happening this year. Not from their schedule. I don't see it. I don't see that. 6-10 for the Lions. I have them at 5-11, and that's very close to being 6-10. That's the type of team that they are, and that's what you'll see right there from 2018. And that there is your NFC North, and we're out.